Hello, my name is Jenny. I'm a student of English literature, and this is my story. I want to tell you about my life in London and my fantastic teacher. You can read my story and learn English with me. It is a beautiful summer day, and I am traveling on a train. Two women are sitting opposite me, speaking English. I don't understand much because I am just beginning to learn English, and I don't know many words. I decided to speak to the women and said a few words in basic English. They understood what I wanted to say, and that made me happy. I told them I wanted to learn English. The women told me they were from England and were returning home from a conference. Our conversation lasted about 10 minutes. Then, the next station was my stop. I said goodbye, and the women gave me their address and phone number. They told me I could visit them in England. After that, we said goodbye. After this meeting, I started working on my English every day. I translated texts and watched films in English. In 6 months, my English improved. It was good, but I wanted to learn more. So, I went to London to study English there. When I arrived in London, I joined a school. My first lesson was on Monday. I met my teacher and the other students in the class. My teacher was a young and kind lady. She was very nice and humble. We introduced ourselves and then began the lesson. Our teacher asked us questions to check our general knowledge about the language. She told us she could teach us using a very effective method for learning English. The method was simple. She explained that we would not have to study in the traditional way, no textbooks. Instead, we would use English as much as possible in our daily lives. This method turned out to be very effective for me. I never liked studying from textbooks because they confused me. Later, we discussed what is important when learning a new language. Our teacher told us that language is a purpose and a mode of communication. We need languages to communicate and to express ideas and thoughts. So, when you learn a new language, the best method is to use it to express your feelings and to communicate with others. This is exactly what we did in our course. We spoke and used the English language a lot. Many students try to memorize new words and study grammar rules, but they don't actually use English for speaking. They study about the language, but they don't use the language. There is a difference. Of course, you need to learn new words and grammar, but you don't have to study them in the traditional way. You need to practice them daily. In this course, our teacher wanted to show us a very simple and effective method for learning vocabulary and grammar. I liked what our teacher said. The lesson continued. We spoke about our hobbies and what we like to do in our free time. We spoke in pairs or with our teacher. I enjoyed the classes. I am really happy because this system of learning turned out to be very good and effective for me. Chapter 2: How I Learned Vocabulary. I went to school again on Tuesday. One of the students asked an interesting question. She asked, "What is the best way to learn new words?" Our teacher told us there are many ways to learn new words. She said, "I will tell you what is statistically the most effective way to learn new words. It is reading. When people read, they learn new words in their language. They learn twice as fast as people who don't read. It is good to read for at least 30 minutes every day. I want to show you what you should do if you want to get the maximum benefit from reading. First, it is very important that the book or text you read is interesting to you. It is important that you enjoy reading the book. The book can be a nice story, fictional or non-fictional, whatever your interest is. Don't read a text that isn't interesting to you. When you don't know many words, you can get frustrated. You should always try to enjoy whatever you do while using the language. It is effective to choose a text that is interesting and also suitable for your level. When you read a text and see a word you don't understand, you should take a dictionary and look up the word. Then, check its meaning. This will improve your understanding of the text, and your knowledge will increase. You don't have to write the word anywhere, the word will automatically log into your brain, and you will always remember its meaning whenever you see the word again. Every time you come across a new word, you should do the same, look it up, understand it, and learn it in context. Reading also has another great advantage. When you read, you learn new words, and you also learn how each word is connected to other words in a sentence. You can see how to link the words correctly. This way of learning new words is very effective. Try it, and you will see how fast you can learn new vocabulary. Then, we continued with the lesson. We talked about the situation in England and about the best jobs for students. This was good for me because I wanted to get a job. I wanted to do something in my spare time after school. I asked other students if they knew where I could find a job. They told me that I should go to a job center. The job center offers a lot of jobs, especially for students. This was helpful for me, and I was happy that I now knew where to look for a job. When my day at school was over, I went to the job center. I didn't know what kind of job I could do, so I asked the lady at the job center, "What is the best job for a student?" The lady told me they had some good jobs for students. She said I could work as a cleaner or as a waitress in a cafe. I told her that I had no experience with these jobs. She told me that my English was good enough to work at the cafe. The training was not difficult, and I would have more chances to speak English as a waitress than as a cleaner. She told me I could start my job on Thursday. It was all good for me, and I was happy that I had found a job where I could practice English. When you want to learn new words effectively, read for 30 minutes every day. On Wednesday, I went to school again. There was one student in the class who was quieter than the others. He was from South Korea. When our teacher asked if we had any questions for her, the student from Korea said he had a question. He said he had a big problem with pronunciation. He knew that his pronunciation was not very good, but he didn't know how to improve it. He didn't speak much because he was worried that others would hear his bad pronunciation. He said that he reads and watches films in English a lot. He understands very well, but he also wants to improve his speaking. He asked if there was something he could do to improve his pronunciation. When our teacher heard this, she said, "Okay, I will tell you something about pronunciation and how to practice it. I will also teach you techniques that can help all of you become better at pronunciation. First, we have to understand why students have problems with pronunciation. When we speak, we have to move our mouths. We use the muscles in our mouths, everyone does. The problem is that when you speak English, you sometimes use the muscles in the same way you would in your native language. Then, your pronunciation becomes different from that of native speakers. This happens to many students who learn English. Almost everybody has slightly different pronunciation than they should have. In fact, it is not a big problem, because usually, people can still understand what you want to say, even if your pronunciation is not perfect. However, you can work on your pronunciation and improve it with a great technique that can help you a lot. The name of this technique is shadowing. The technique is very simple. When you do shadowing, you simply copy the sounds that you hear. When children learn their first language, they learn it by copying. They copy their parents again and again, and one day, their pronunciation becomes perfect. You can learn English pronunciation the same way. This is what you can do. Take some videos or audio recordings that are not too fast and that you can understand very well. Listen, and copy what you hear as you hear it. That's all. Then, our teacher went to YouTube and searched for the shadowing technique. She found good videos where the shadowing technique was clearly demonstrated. We watched a video, and then we all tried shadowing for about 3 minutes. Our teacher told us that shadowing is also very useful when you are preparing for a presentation in English and want to have good pronunciation. Before the presentation, you can go somewhere alone and do shadowing for about 10 minutes. You will see how much it helps you improve your pronunciation during the presentation. This was very interesting for me. I hadn't heard about this technique before. When the lesson finished, I went to the school reception and asked the lady if there were any sports activities at the school. I would like to do some sport in England. The lady at the reception said, "Yes, we have a table tennis team and a football team." The football team had training today at 5 o'clock. I was very happy because sports are very important in my life. I went to the football team's training and met a lot of players from different countries. The players were from Brazil, Japan, Russia, Spain, Argentina, and Italy. I liked the training and was very happy that my time in England had started well. I have a great teacher, and I also have some new friends from the football team. Also, tomorrow, I am starting my job as well. When you want to have good pronunciation, repeat after native speakers. On Thursday, I went to school again. We had a new student in our class. Her name was Elizabeth, and she was from Italy. At the beginning of the lesson, my teacher asked Elizabeth some questions. My teacher already knew Elizabeth because she had visited her class 1 year ago. It was a class for beginners and lasted only for 2 weeks during the summer holiday. When Elizabeth spoke, she spoke beautifully. Her pronunciation was very good, and she was fluent. My teacher was very happy and told Elizabeth, "Your school in Italy must be very good." Elizabeth replied, "I don't go to any school. I learn English at home. I use the techniques I learned from you. I do a lot of reading, shadowing, and thinking aloud. I try to think more in English than in Italian. This is how I work on my English. The 2 weeks I spent in your class last summer helped me a lot. You showed me the way. I know how to work on my English every day. This is why I wanted to join your class again, because 1 year ago I was a beginner, and now I can speak English. I want to learn from you again." My teacher was very happy when she heard these words. She appreciated Elizabeth for her hard work. It was all very interesting for me. I already knew about reading, and I also knew the shadowing technique. But Elizabeth also spoke about thinking aloud. I didn't know what it was, so I asked our teacher, "What is thinking aloud?" Our teacher replied, "It is a very effective technique. You need to have a strong motivation to learn English if you want to benefit from this technique. It's also good to know that for some people, this technique might seem a little crazy. But when you start thinking aloud, your English can improve very quickly." I said, "I have strong motivation. I don't care if the technique is crazy, if it helps, I want to learn it. Can you teach us this technique?" Our teacher said, "Okay, it's actually very simple. You think in your native language all day, every day, that's normal. Now, you can start thinking in English. And when you start thinking in English, you can also think aloud. You simply say out loud whatever you are thinking. That's all. It's very simple. Why is it so effective?" I asked. Our teacher replied, "Maybe you can ask Elizabeth. She uses this technique, so maybe she can tell you more about it." Then our teacher asked Elizabeth if it was okay for her to speak about her experience with thinking aloud. Elizabeth said, "It's not a problem." She continued, "When I started with this technique, it wasn't easy. I began with very simple sentences. For example, I would say, 'I can speak English. It is good that I can speak English. I want to be better. I need to practice every day. I don't know many words, but I can use these words. I can say my ideas with these words. I can do this. This is great. The sentences were really simple. But at the beginning, there was one problem. My thinking in Italian was long and complicated. I was not able to say things exactly in English, but I could say them in Italian. I needed to find a simpler form of English. Thinking in simple English was the hardest part. But after some time, it became normal for me to think in English. Then something interesting happened. I met a man from Australia who was on holiday in Italy. I was still a beginner, but we started speaking English. I could see that I was able to speak with him without any problems. My sentences were simple and short, but I was able to communicate. I didn't translate in my head from Italian to English. After that meeting with the man from Australia, I started to use the thinking aloud technique more. This technique helped me a lot with my speaking. I still use it every day. It is really a very effective technique. Our teacher thanked Elizabeth for sharing her experience with thinking aloud. I also wanted to use this technique because I wanted to get better at speaking. When you want to speak English fluently, think aloud. I want to give you some extra advice. When you want to learn English, read, listen, think, and speak. Do each activity for 40 minutes every day. You can read, listen, and shadow using our base English stories. Did you enjoy reading along with us? Let's keep the fun going. Give this video a like if you love the tale. Share it with your friends and family to help them practice English too. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new story to boost your reading skills. Got a favorite story? Tell us in the comments below. Stay tuned for more exciting English adventures.